So, today we're heading deep into the mountains of Pauri Gardwal in Uttarakhand. It's this incredible place known for ancient temples and, really deep-rooted spiritual beliefs. But this isn't about some divine blessing. No, it's a really chilling account of how faith, family, and a terrible, terrible secret all collided in the most horrifying way you can imagine. And it all raises one terrifying question. How does that even happen? How does a family that, by all accounts, did everything right, a family that followed their faith completely, end up at the absolute center of a supernatural nightmare? That paradox is what makes this mystery so unsettling. And it all started when the family finally went to the local priest for help. You see, when the family's young daughter started showing these terrifying signs of some affliction, they did what anyone would do. They went to the priest. But when he saw the child, he didn't offer any comfort, no complex rituals. He was just plain terrified. And he had only one word to describe the horror that they were dealing with. Masan. In the folklore of this region, that one word is basically a death sentence. It's a name that strikes absolute fear into the hearts of anyone who hears it. But what exactly is a Masan? And how in the world did it find its way into this devout family's home? Well, to understand that, we've got to go back to the beginning. Okay, Section 1, the ideal village family. Before all the horror, there was this image of peace. This was, for all intents and purposes, a simple, happy family, just living a quiet life that was completely bound by their duty and their unwavering faith. So, let's meet them. We've got Gagan, a soldier in the army, his wife Madhu, and their two young daughters. And while they were living this pretty typical middle-class life in Delhi, their whole identity was really defined by one thing above all else, this deep, unshakable faith in their family deity. Now, this concept is absolutely central to understanding their world. The Kul Devta is, well, think of it like a guardian spirit, a protector of the entire family line. Worshipping them isn't just a ritual, it's like a sacred pact. The family offers devotion, and in return, the deity protects them from all evil. And this family, they took that pact very, very seriously. So their life in Delhi gets cut short by a phone call. Gagan's father, back in their ancestral village, is gravely ill. It's one of those calls that forces a huge decision. They pack up their entire lives and return to Pauri. They believe they're just doing their duty, but that one single move back home, it would unknowingly set them on a path to complete ruin. So the family settles back into village life, but the peace, it doesn't last long. Not even close. Tragedy strikes, not once, but twice. And what at first just seems like a terrible accident, well, it soon reveals itself to be something far, far more sinister. Let's just trace this dark turn of events, okay? A few months after they move, Gagan's father passes away. The family grieves, they move on. A few years later, there's some good news. Madhu is pregnant again. But then, one rainy morning, both Madhu and Gagan's mother go to the temple for their daily prayers. They never come back. Their bodies are found later that day. The explanation seems simple enough, It had been raining, the village paths were treacherous and super muddy, so the consensus was that one of them slipped, probably grabbed the other, and they both tragically fell to their deaths. It was a horrible accident, but a plausible story for this mountainous region. But amidst all the grief and the shock, the villagers who recovered the bodies, they noticed something. Just a small, strange detail on one of the victims that didn't quite fit the whole narrative of a simple fall. And here's that strange detail. Madhu, Gagan's wife, had this peculiar wound on her right chest, kind of like an animal bite or a gash. The villagers tried to rationalize it, thinking maybe a jackal had gotten to the body after the fall. They dismissed it, but they really, really shouldn't have. So, Gagan is now a widower, left to raise his two daughters all by himself. He even quits the army to care for them. But the real horror? It hasn't even begun. Weeks after the funeral, something from that tragic day follows them home. The focus of the story now shifts completely to the eldest daughter, an 11-year-old girl who's already dealing with the insane trauma of losing her mother and her grandmother, suddenly begins to show these terrifying changes in her behavior and even in her physical appearance. The affliction just escalated horribly. It started with these physical changes, disfigurements on her body. Then came the night terrors and these random screams. She became self-destructive, banging her head against the doorstep. And then came the most chilling sign of all. A wound appeared on her right chest, in the exact same spot as the one found on her dead mother. This is when Gagin takes her to the priest, who immediately identifies the entity as a Masan. And now we finally understand the term. A Masan isn't just any ghost. It's a vengeful, dangerous spirit with a mission. It possesses a host for a reason, and it will not leave until that purpose is fulfilled. The family was in grave, grave danger. So the situation just becomes desperate. The girl's condition is getting worse, and the villagers, absolutely terrified, are demanding that Gagin leave. So, as a last resort, the priest agrees to perform an exorcism. But this ritual, it would uncover a truth far more terrifying than any ghost. So the priest confronts the entity possessing this young girl. He demands to know its name and its purpose. What is its mission? Why is it tormenting this child? The answer that comes forth, spoken through the girl's mouth, would completely shatter everything the villagers thought they knew about this poor, grieving family. The first crack in the story actually comes not from the spirit, but from the younger daughter. She's terrified, but she's brave, and she confesses to the priest that her father was not the man he seemed to be. He resented being in the village, he was furious over his inheritance, and he secretly hated his daughters because he desperately wanted a son. And with Gagin's true nature now exposed, the spirit possessing the older daughter finally speaks clearly. It is not just any Masan, it is the spirit of their mother, Madhu, and she has returned from the grave to reveal the horrifying truth of how she and her mother-in-law really died. Speaking through her own daughter, Madhu's spirit recounted the horrifying murder. Gagin, enraged that she was pregnant with what he feared would be another girl, pushed his own mother off the cliff. When Madhu screamed that she would expose him, he pulled out a knife and stabbed her in the chest, the source of that mysterious wound, before pushing her body over the edge. That confession just hangs in the air. I mean, it's a truth so monstrous, it's almost unbelievable. The exorcism has literally become a trial, and the verdict has just been delivered by the victim herself. Chaos just erupts. In all the panic, Gagin makes a run for it. He tries to escape into the hills, but in a moment of just chilling, poetic justice, his foot slips on the wet path, and he falls at the very same spot where he committed the murders. He isn't killed, but he's injured and captured by the villagers, who promptly hand him over to the police. And this leaves us with a final, really haunting question. Gagin was arrested, but the core evidence came from a totally unbelievable source. So, was it the repressed trauma of a child manifesting as a story to make sense of an unspeakable tragedy? Or was it truly the spirit of a murdered woman, reaching from beyond the grave for vengeance? You know, maybe stories like this endure because they give a voice to the voiceless, blurring that line between psychology, folklore, and our deep, deep need for justice.